What's up YouTube, Jeff back again from DopeTechDaily.com, and today I'm bringing you guys a video to talk about the notch. Yes, I've been using the Huawei P20 Pro for about 3 weeks now, and I've made quite a few videos on it, and in each of those videos there are a lot of comments asking about how I can live with the notch, or what are my thoughts on the notch, and a lot of people who obviously dislike the notch as well. Well, I'm in that camp. I'm not a huge fan, so today I'm going to talk about 5 reasons that I'm not a huge fan of the notch. The very first one, just to get right into it, compatibility issues with apps. So let me show you guys an example of what I'm talking about with compatibility issues. Every time I open Facebook Messenger and I go into any conversation in my Facebook Messenger, you'll notice at the top how it's kind of overlaid and jumbled text at the top. Yeah, it adjusts itself, but it does that every single time. And in some apps, the text doesn't even adjust itself at the top. In fact, if I open it again, you can see it does it. It takes maybe about, 4 or 5 seconds for that jumbled text right there to go away. You can see it's got the first person in my contact list there. Now that happens with quite a few apps. So obviously not every Android manufacturer checked compatibility with all of the top apps in the App Store when they were designing their notch. And that might get ironed out over time, but right now it's definitely a problem, and those compatibility issues are things that are going to continue with new apps that are created, mainly because unlike on iOS, where Apple has a lot of control over the way that the operating system handles the notch, Google doesn't have the same control. So we might see some improvements in Android P, but currently that's a pretty big and interesting issue. The next thing is the bottom chin and physical home button. Now, pretty much every Android manufacturer who's come out with a notch has also shipped it with a sizable bottom chin. And in the case of the Huawei P20 Pro, they also put a physical home button on there. Now, when the argument is to obviously increase real estate by putting this notch at the top, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to have that bottom chin. The reason the bottom chin there is just because of the internals of the phone. There's a ribbon cable on the back that has to be connected in a way that necessitates the bottom chin on Android, and Apple actually did some fancy design work to make sure that could be moved to the back on the iPhone X, which is why the iPhone X has no significant bottom chin. So this is going to continue to happen. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. Maybe when Samsung moves to the notch, if they do, I kind of hope they don't, but if they do, we might see this go away. Now you do notice that when I've been using the P20 Pro, I don't have the soft key navigation keys on the bottom. That's because I'm using the one button navigation. It allows me to tap the back button like this or hold down the back button to go home. And this has really made it easier to utilize all the screen real estate and make the notch beneficial. But if you're not interested in doing that with the one button nav, or you don't want to use the iPhone X-like gestures that are likely to come in Android P, then you're kind of going to be stuck with also having soft keys at the bottom, and then that takes up even more screen real estate with the bottom chin, and then also soft keys right underneath that. The next thing is the decreased room for notifications. Huge shout out to my friend Nexus Ben, who writes over at 9to5 Google. He's talked about this quite a few times, and I can't agree more. When you have the notch at the top, you have less room for notifications to fill up your notification shade. Now, I'm someone who kind of likes to use my notification shade like a filing cabinet, and on most of my phones that don't have a notch, I would have a bunch of notifications all across there at the end of my day. Now, with a notch, you have already your cell reception and your Wi-Fi icon moved over to the left, which means you have minimal space for any notification icons. You see I've got 2 notifications right now from Google, Baseball Score, and a YouTube Studio icon, but I can probably only fit a couple more icons in there before I'm going to run out of room. And that's a kind of a problem with a notch. All the phones that have this, it's an issue. On Android P, on my Pixel 2 XL, the time is also shifted over here, so that leaves even less room for notifications. That's not a problem on iOS, of course, because you don't have all those notifications at the top. They don't really do that in that way. But for diehard Android users that like to use their phone in that way, it's definitely something that's taken to get used to, and I'm not a huge fan of it so far. The next thing is the increasingly tall aspect ratio on the phones. So in order to make the notch break even and actually add any sort of vertical real estate, you need to keep increasing the aspect ratio on your phones. The OnePlus 6 is actually rumored to have a 19:9 aspect ratio, getting even taller and taller than we've seen in the past. And that's basically just going to continue happening as manufacturers want to get that higher and higher screen to body ratio when they're adding the notch into the phone. Of course, that's going to bring up reachability concerns. Before, it used to be that the phones were too wide for some people. Eventually, they're going to become too tall as they keep increasing the aspect ratio more and more, and that's definitely something I can see coming if the notch trend continues. And then the final thing is just the aesthetics. This thing breaks up the symmetry of your display, obviously at the top here. And when you're watching video or playing games on a lot of the phones, it's going to clip off the notch anyway. And so that also is going to really ruin the screen real estate when you're watching media or playing a game. So it's really a moot point there. But it definitely breaks up the symmetry of the design. And that's one of the main reasons that a lot of people don't like it. And indeed, one of the main reasons that I don't like it. I just think a Galaxy S9 type Infinity display looks a little bit sleeker, a little more symmetric. And you also don't have the aforementioned bottom chin. So those are some of the functional and aesthetic reasons why I'm not a huge fan of the notch, even though I love the P20 Pro as a phone. I hope you guys will weigh in the comments below and let me know what you think about the notch, either positive or negative. We're certainly going to find out more about it in Android P next week at Google I/O, and I'll be there to bring you guys all the coverage. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon so I can make future videos like this. Find me at dopetechdailycom, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter at the links in the description. Also find me writing over at gadgethacks.com where I write about Android. Appreciate you guys checking it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.